This is a video demonstration of the applications of SpatialXL in the area of spatial business intelligence. SpatialXL is an add-in to Microsoft Excel that gives Excel full spatial capability and the ability to visualize and analyze your data on a map. When you install SpatialXL, you get a button in Excel that opens up the SpatialXL ribbon. Once you click on Show SpatialXL, a mapping area will open up where you can see your map and also a layer control where your data layers are shown. SpatialXL can work with data from many different kinds of sources, such as external files, databases, and of course Excel, as mentioned, all together in the same environment. I'm going to show you how easy it is to visualize your customers on a map. You simply check that your spreadsheet has coordinate data, such as latitude and longitude, and then you click on Add Excel Layer. This will bring your data into the mapping area and immediately map your customers for you. I've already set up some layers here, so I will remove the one I just added. As part of our product, we have a brand new feature called StoryBoard. The principle of a storyboard is simple. Your data tells a story. Initially, the story might be related to how the data is laid out, in which category the data falls, and further along the line, we might want to get to some conclusions about our data, which we'd like to show to somebody else or revisit ourselves. The storyboard allows us to do that. Here is an example. I've set up a storyboard with different nodes for my own stores. In this storyboard, I can go through and click on the provinces view and see all of my own stores laid out by province. I can also see this in the docked view instead of floating, and there it will pull the data back into my docked window in Excel. Now I can go through each province and it will zoom into each province area, so I can look at my data in each province that I've set up. Each storyboard node captures the full state of our application and surrounding information as I go through them. For instance, which layers are turned on and off, which themes are turned on and off, and so forth. Now, as I went through my different provinces, I noticed when I set up my storyboard that there's an issue with the Limpopo data. I can turn on annotation that I captured earlier, and here is the data described, which I can now tell somebody else to fix up, or I can revisit and fix up myself. So we have full annotation and comments as part of the storyboard as well. Cleaning your data has never been easier. By going back to the previous storyboard item with Limpopo, we can see from our annotation that there's an issue with some points which seems to be incorrect. I can select these points on the map and see more information about them. I can also select these rows in Excel so that I can see what is wrong with these particular locations. From here, I can see that the point seems correct because it is in Welkom, but the province is Limpopo, which is incorrect, and it should actually be the Free State. I can also change this on the fly to correct it, and that will now fix and classify these points correctly. To zoom into a particular area, we can also see more details about the location so that we can see properly whether this is in the right area or not. And we can also turn on different background layers, for instance, satellite imagery, to get an idea of where the point is located. We are going to use one of the best features of SpatialXL, which is the ability to filter data in Excel and have the filters applied to our map. So for instance, if I select all of these points that were incorrectly classified, and we select these in Excel, We can now apply a color to the background. And when we go into Excel, we see that these rows are now colored. After we filter on the color, you can see here that the provinces is still incorrectly classified as Limpopo for these other 2 points. And when we go back to our map, we can see that it's filtered out all of the other data and we only see these 2 points which are incorrectly classified. By changing this inside our spreadsheet, we immediately fix up our data so that the data is immediately correctly classified on the fly. Now when we zoom to the Limpopo province, you see that there is no longer incorrectly classified data from the Free State in this province. So the ability to apply filters in Excel and then have them displayed on the map is a great feature of SpatialXL. We also have a tool to pick up our coordinates called the Copy 2D Coordinates tool. So let's say that this point here was misclassified and should be up here. We can simply pick up the coordinates from the correct location and we can go ahead and paste that in Excel like that. SpatialXL has the ability to set up many different themes to look at data in different ways. I can also use my storyboard here to show some themes that I've set up before. This is the provinces theme that we saw already, also set up as a new node in this particular storyboard. And this is a theme showing our volume of sales with high volumes of over 4,800 isolated here. If I turn on all the items here, I can see what all my volumes of sales are. Here we use a theme which is actually 2 types of themes together. One with the color of the point representing the volume of sales, and the other one with also the size of the point showing that the higher numbers are a bigger dot than the other numbers. We also have a way to show more than one indicator on a particular theme, not just in terms of the size of the dot, but in terms of other indicators as well. For instance, in this particular store, we sell 2 different brands. We can show these brands' performances by turning on a pie chart and still see the overall sales indicator behind it by keeping the sales volume theme on at the same time. I'd like to spend a little bit more time on Excel filters. Just to show you how user-friendly this is, I'd like to filter out customers in KwaZulu-Natal on the spreadsheet. Immediately we can see that we have only 57 out of our 301 stores in this area. You also see all the other provinces disappear. Now we can do a further analysis by only choosing stores turnover of more than 100,000. You can see from that a number of stores disappeared, and now we only have 34 stores appearing on the map when this data is filtered out. This helps us to correctly find data in Excel that we'd like to focus on and would like to revisit. We can have a look at our competitors by mapping them. If you don't have their exact locations, it is also possible to locate these by using one of our other tools called Locate Excel, by using the addresses to find their latitudes and longitudes. Once you have your competitors displayed on the map, you can also do themes on them, such as showing their icons. You can also filter these out by selecting different ones in the themes, or you can do that again by filtering on your province or some other indicator to filter them out as well. if you have addresses for particular clients that shop at your stores, you might have a very large number of them, and you can also locate those on a map. Of course, this is only applicable to certain businesses. Once again, you can do various theming options on these, and SpatialXL can work with extremely large datasets. In this instance, we're working with close to 200,000 points of sale or delivery in this particular dataset. Heat maps can be turned on and if you zoom in, you can see the heat map values change depending on what the values are that are displayed on the screen. Here we've also set up two different heat map themes, one based on the density of the points and the other one based on the volume. And they will look slightly different. I'll also have a storyboard here to take me through the heat maps. So this is a heat map of the entirety of South Africa, Gauteng province, and the Limpopo province. SpatialXL can also be used to do very accurate and level territory planning. As an example here, I've set up my old territories in the Cape area, and as you can see, there is a lot of overlap between territories, where you can see the different colors of the points being on other sides of other areas, and geographically this is not very correctly classified. We can definitely clean up these territories and do it very quickly and easily in SpatialXL. Firstly, we can do a geographic cleanup so that the points are geographically correctly classified. And now there is no more overlap between these territories. We can also level these territories by working with their count or their volume leveling. And as you can see here, we used our clustering tools to make sure that our territories are leveled to the best of our abilities, but yet still keeping our geographic clustering in place as well. This way we do not overwhelm a particular sales area with incorrect territory planning. Now we're going to look at some of the analysis tools in SpatialXL. An area that I'm very excited about is doing a gap analysis, which basically means identifying areas that you need to be in that you do not currently have a presence in. For a gap analysis, you need a number of steps and even more than one data set. First, we're going to find out what areas my current stores actually cover. There's a few different ways of going about this. So the first thing we can do is to have a radius around our stores. This is a 3-kilometer radius that I've set up around my current stores. Now you can either use these radii, or if you have purchased a product called RouteXL, which is an add-in into SpatialXL, you can also do what we call a drive distance or drive time analysis. So for instance here, I've done 3-minute drive time analyses around each store, which gives you the area that you cover when you assume that people are going to be traveling about 3 minutes and no further to go to your particular stores. Already we can see some gaps that we might not be covering. But to really get into this and to really understand what we're looking at, we'd like to see what areas our current stores are actually covering with regard to the population inside those areas of influence. Now to show you this off, we've got a data set here that has a lot of demographics information. This data set, or number of data sets in fact, belong to a partner of ours called GeoTerra Image, and it contains 3 different data sets. We've got a data set here called the Neighborhood Lifestyle Index as one of the data sets, and it gives us a very granular set out of the level of affluence of the population in these areas. This is very similar to the old living standard measure data, but it is much more updated based on much more current information, and it gives us a lot more granularity in terms of these areas as well. Then we also have demographics such as the density of the areas in terms of population. This is how many people are within a particular square kilometer. We also have other information such as the dominant race, and they even have another data set called advanced population, which will show us, for instance, the day and nighttime population of a particular area. We can also theme this for how many people are working, how many people are students, how many people leave the area in the daytime and migrate back again at night. These colorings are done by dominant fields, but we can get a better set out if we do a dashboard that will give us the breakdown of the exact distribution in an area as well. So for instance, I can get an NLI breakdown on a particular area that I select, and there we can see how many households fall into each neighborhood lifestyle category. Now if you're looking at a particular store influence, you can see what areas these stores cover, so that you can get an idea of the demographic breakdown underlies these influences. So what I've done here is to do a proportional aggregation of the people underlying a particular store area. So for instance, I can now see how many households are in a particular store radius, what the demographic profile is, etc. And I can also do that for the drive distance analysis as well. In fact, what I can also do here is to do a theme based on perhaps the dominant lifestyle index, or a theme based on the household density per square kilometer, to immediately see what these indicators are for this area of influence around my stores. To show this in a very nice way, I've created a dashboard called Influence Distribution. Now, what this dashboard shows, I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger here. When I turn off my filter, it will show me the entirety of households, neighborhood lifestyle index breakdown, and in this case, race distribution of all of my stores within that exact 3-minute drive time. So this is basically the households in the areas around my stores. If I wanted to get a type of profile on successful stores, let's say that these two stores are very successful, I can simply click on filter on selected, and I can then say, okay, let's select this store, and we can get an immediate profile around that store, including how many households it handles, what the breakdown is, etc., as well as maybe clicking on this store as well, where you can immediately see these two stores combined, what the difference is in profile and the total households that's in that area. The same obviously goes for unsuccessful stores. So let's say that, just for argument's sake, let's say that this store around here is actually not quite as successful. I can now get a demographic profile of what I consider to be maybe not the profile I'm exactly looking for, and the other types of breakdowns, as well as how many households we've got in this area. So maybe in this case, we can see that a higher focused neighborhood lifestyle index is not something that we want, as well as there's too few households in this area, so the population is not dense enough to contribute to the success of that store. So this gives us an idea of our current area of influence, so that we can see what is successful and what is not successful in terms of a demographic profile. Of course, here I've only done neighborhood lifestyle index, race breakdown, but you can do ages, You can do day-night population, densities, male, female, or gender breakdown as well, and so on. Now, once I know what I'm going for, I can start to look for gaps in the area to see what new business I would like to create. So let's say that in the previous analysis, I found that a high population density and medium neighborhood lifestyle indexes were the successful target market for placing new stores. I would then go ahead and let me just look at my storyboard, because I've set this up to remind myself. So clicking on the initial analysis I've done here, I can see I've kept my radii and drive distance analysis on. And then I have my demographics layer on as well, where I have a filter on to say that I'm only interested in population numbers where there's more than 1,000 people per square kilometer, which then filters out a lot of areas, and focusing only on NLI 3 to NLI 6 for this particular target market. Now I can see my gaps appearing, and what I did is to design my gaps and name them as well. This is where we do not have a presence with our current stores. We can also turn on the shopping center dataset so that we can get an idea of where the shopping centers might be, where we can locate new stores in these areas. By turning on the competitors, we can also see what the competitor layout or landscape is for these areas, which are target areas for our new stores. So looking at these 4 gaps, we can do an analysis of each of these gaps as well. I've done a proportional aggregation, once again picking up the number of households, race distribution, NLI distribution, and even day-night population underneath each of these gaps. And here is our storyboard item that covers the first gap, which is Rosettenville. By clicking on this particular item, we now get our exact distribution of race, day, night, neighborhood lifestyle index, as well as the total number of households in that area. We can do that by looking at every single gap separately and selecting them for our possibility of looking at whether a store would be successful in that area. The same with this one. And that is our gap analysis. We have mentioned throughout this demo video the many data sets that we have access to. Just to reiterate, we have shopping center data, data sets from our many data partners. We also have access to market surveys by our partners as well. We also have the census data from the 2011 census extrapolated to 2018 updated population numbers. And we have access to crime statistics information as well through one of our other partners. Thank you very much for watching this demonstration. Please let us know if you have any questions.